Hello and welcome to Everyone's an Expert, the EV conversation where I don't always know the answers, but hopefully folks in the chat can help out. Together we can put our heads together and get you the right answers. So everyone's an expert, just not me necessarily all the time. Welcome. Looks like we've got Tyler and John here already. Welcome. Thank you. I know I think Jason said when this was posted that it looked like it was going to be at 3:30 in the morning. I have no idea why everything on my end was saying 9:30 Central Time, but YouTube is sometimes a mystery, so we just have to deal with that, and here we are. So if you missed this because of a weird time it was saying on YouTube, I apologize. There's only so much of that I can fix on my end. But I wanted to start out today with a big thank you to Roland from Chemist American Lifestyle, if I could talk. Sent me a whole bunch of these stickers. This is one pack of two of them, which are, let's see if I can get the camera to focus on that. No, too close. There we are. So just kind of a cool... if anyone wants one, let me know either through Facebook, if you know me through there, or message me on Twitter at Brian_Reby. And yeah, thank you very much. These are super cool. And already put one on my notebook here and looking for other places where I'm going to be throwing them. I know, at the next Tesla event, I'll just put them on people's cars. People like stickers on their cars, right? No, but it's very cool. They look great. And yeah, I was excited. I just got those in the mail yesterday, and very cool. So thank you. I don't know if he's... Oh, there he is. He's on here now. So thanks, Roland. Really appreciate that. These are super cool. And like I said, going to be putting them to good use. And if anyone wants one, either at a meetup or something, I can give them to you, or like I said, through Facebook or Twitter, let me know, and I can get you one. So I don't know how to wrap that up, but thank you. Very cool, and really appreciate it. He makes a lot of the hats I have. He's made me a couple shirts, some the stickers, the patches, very cool stuff. So if you need someone who can do some custom cool printing things for you, connect with Roland. Chemist American Lifestyle is his handle here on YouTube. So yeah, just let him know if you're interested in anything like that, and he can hook you up. He does some cool stuff. So I wanted to start today with, there's kind of the big story out there that's the whole FUD around FSD and everything. And I don't want to start right there with that. FSD is rolling out. It's not perfect. I think anybody who's driven with it knows it's not perfect. And 10.9 is out. I don't have it yet. But my daughter's been off school since she was out all last week and so far all this week. Just runny nose and cough, but according to the school precautions, they don't want kids with that stuff coming just in case. I totally get it. But the days have kind of gotten a little monotonous. So what we've been doing is, I kind of call it training for road trips, but also training FSD as well as we go. And so usually in the afternoon, we'll get in the car and I'll just pick random spots, little neighborhoods, and whatever I can think of from where we are to, this Target location, then to this neighborhood, then to the zoo, then to another neighborhood. And so all around the southern suburbs, we've been kind of picking different places and doing FSD. I try to find the most difficult paths it can take, to really see what it can do. And we're training it. Hopefully Tesla's using these screenshots I'm sending in and things. It's not perfect yet, but it does do a lot of stuff pretty well and is getting better. I'm really looking forward to 10.9. And I'll explain a little bit more about why. But what's seeming to be one of the biggest improvements in 10.9 is that it is, after it's stopped at a stop sign or something, it makes the decision quicker and acts on the decision quicker. So you're not just hanging out at a four-way stop by yourself waiting for it to go. And again, I'll tie that in around later. So as much as I'm enjoying it, it's not ready for prime time yet. It's still beta. They're still working through stuff. I think a lot of us know that. But yet they're raised the price this week to $12,000. And I've already said for months now, ever since the subscription came out, really, unless you're going to buy and keep your car for a long time and you're guaranteed no one's going to hit you and total that, or, fairly sure with where you drive and how you drive that you're pretty safe with that, then I would probably buying today would just do the subscription. And I know you're going to spend more time overtime, but having the ability to cancel it if you have a hard time financially with that, that's something you could cut out. And being able to test it out and say, I like it now, but it's not ready. I'll sign back up when it's ready. Or maybe you're like me and you enjoy the training process and kind of seeing where it is and enjoying it for what it is right now. Then that subscription might be worth it to you. But the price hike is substantial for what we've seen released so far. And I think when they do these, it's a little bit of, we know, like, we can see the alpha build of 3 builds from now and where it's going to be. Therefore, we'll raise the price now. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, they're a company that can do whatever they want. It's obviously their product if they want to price it out. They could also be pricing it out to get more people on the subscription. And part of the reason they might want to do that is because, like I said, if your car gets totaled, you wouldn't recoup that FSD purchased cost. So if you would have to buy it again, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Or, if you possibly could have to buy it again, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So it could be they're raising the price of it because they see its value increasing, but they also want more people on the subscription model because I'm trying to think, was it Spotify maybe that had a trial for a while where you could get it for life, and then years later, or eventually they stopped that program, and then years later, those people who went for it have saved tons and tons of money. So it could be they're pricing it out of being convenient for people to buy. But also, if their commitment is to safety and they feel like this is safer and their data is coming out that this is safer, or when, city streets is at a higher level, that it will be significantly safer. They're a company, but is there an ethics question there if you're pricing safety out of the average person's reach. That's a bigger problem. And even the subscription, for the average person, that's a lot of money. So we'll see where this all ends up. Again, I wouldn't encourage anyone to buy it outright at this point. Not that there's no value to it, but I would do the subscription and opt in or out when you want to. Even if you're paying a little more, having that control makes more sense. I know they've said when it's fully released, they're going to raise the subscription price too, and it'll be interesting to see what that's going to go to. And maybe that would be a reason to buy it outright. But again, if it's not transferable to another vehicle, and you hear the horror stories of, I just got it home and then, someone sideswiped it, or, ran into it while it was parked or whatever, and then it's totaled and you're out that, that would be pretty tough. So, so it's a little, it's at kind of a weird spot right now where at times it's miraculous and does amazing things and it's so human-like, even on 10.8. And then it does some boneheaded thing that's so stupid. It's like, and again, some of that might be map data, which they say they're improving. I don't know if it's active in 10.9 yet. I'm not sure. It might just be in the background to 10.9. But if they can clean some of that stuff up, in our drive today, there were 2 occasions where it wanted to get into the turn lane instead of continue straight, even though the route and everything said straight. And so some of that dumb mapping stuff still happens. It could be a vision problem too. I'm not sure, but that's kind of above what I understand about it. So that's kind of where I am on the price piece. Excuse me, I need a drink. But I've seen a few different things, and obviously we'll get to the big FUD piece in a minute here, but I saw somebody on Twitter today saying, why haven't I seen any live streams of FSD? If it's so great, they're all edited videos. Well, a lot of people put out end-to-end, here's my full drive. Lots of people have negative stuff in their videos, even mine have, it's just how it went. Some good, some bad. I tried to do a good job of pointing those out, but I'm not doing a ton of beta videos. Again, in Minneapolis or the Minnesota Twin Cities area, Dan Berkland does a lot of great FSD drives. I don't think he's got 10.9 yet either, but he's doing a lot of like city stuff, and there's a lot of great people on YouTube. Dirty Tesla does a ton of full self-driving videos. Definitely is not just showing the good stuff. Some people have live streamed it, but I think in the early beta tester days they were not supposed to. And you kind of understand why. For me, running 2 cameras and just making sure they're on and trying to babysit FSD is plenty to keep track of. And I've gotten kind of used to that. Excuse me. I've gotten kind of used to that, but now I've got my daughter in the car with me as I've been testing over the last couple weeks, and we drive an hour to 2 hours pretty much every day, just checking stuff out, seeing how it's doing. And, the kids are a distraction too. So, I think it's good that there aren't a lot of people literally live streaming it, because it's a lot to keep track of, your connectivity, all that stuff, cameras and stuff, when really, when using beta, you should be paying attention to the road. So, but some people have, and a lot of people, like I said, have published end-to-end videos of their full drives. But, either some people aren't looking for that or just assume nobody's publishing the negative stuff when there's plenty of negatives out there, especially in the earlier builds. Now we're seeing more and more of those zero intervention drives, which is great. But I can see how if you're just watching the zero intervention drives, you'd be like, well, where is it when it's making mistakes? Nobody's showing that. But, they are out there. So this kind of all wraps up together with the... there's some stuff in the chat here. I'll check in on this quick. Ben is so deep in Tesla, it's scary. Is my logo copyright protected? I'm not too worried about that. Technically, yes, I created it, and I have the date I created it, so not worrying about that. Plus, who would want it? The purchase of the vehicle, full self-driving on the bill of sale, should be covered if the vehicle is totaled. It probably should. I don't know. I've heard of people not honoring that, of companies not honoring that. And so I don't know. It would be great if they do, but we'll see. And really, with the price jumping up, I think we paid $7,000 for it. That would only cover half of the cost of, a little more than half, but half the cost of the price today. So that is a jump. If you buy it after the fact, it's not on the bill of sale. True. Yeah, 12,000 is ridiculous right now. And Jim from Iowa Tesla guy, he is still rocking 10.8.1. How have your drives been, Jim? Have you been doing more tests with it? I'm still on 10.8.1 too, and like I said, I think Dan is too, as far as his last Twitter post that I saw today. So the big kind of FUD story this week was the New York Times article, or not article, it was a paid ad that was a full screen ad, basically saying that full self-driving is garbage software. No company would ever ship anything like this. It'll kill millions if it's released. And that right there is so over the top. I'm sure some people will believe it. But if it were released today, it will kill millions. As I was driving around today for, like I said, the 10th day in a row, something like that, for like an hour plus at a stretch. What I think would happen if FSD were released on all cars right now is intersections would get blocked by cars waiting and wondering what to do. Roundabouts would be completely stopped up because they all stop at the yields. Not at every one, but at least where I am, 90% of them. Would some accidents happen? Yeah, probably. Would it kill millions? No, that's preposterous. If FSD was on every car right now in the way it is where the driver is supposed to pay attention, I think there would still be accidents and probably some fatalities because people don't follow directions well. But I think generally it would make us safer if it was on every vehicle, even in the state it is now, if people were told to pay attention. and that they were, responsible for, babysitting it essentially. And I've had a couple situations as far as like collision danger. I've had a couple situations on 10.8.1 where it got a little too close to comfort, either to a parked car or like as I'm taking a left and someone else is making a right. Do I know it would have hit the other car? No, I don't know that. Was it close enough that I wasn't going to risk it? Yes. But that's the paying attention part. That's the being an active participant in this process. Like I said, wanted to get into some turn lanes today. There are frustrating things it does wrong. But kind of the whole track of this is what's the rate of progress? And it seems like things are getting corrected or cleaned up. Now, supposedly, version 11 is going to be a complete rewrite. Will that set us back a few steps? Maybe. We're going to have to wait to see if they do 10.9, then 10.9.5, 10.9.6, 10.9.7. They might keep pushing that back. We'll have to wait and see. We might get more insight into that next week on the earnings call. But so basically this ad was basically it was an ad. It was it had the tone of the concerned citizen who just wants to help, and we're all going to be Tesla's crash test dummies, which is, like I said, preposterous. Millions a day, then we're going to run out of population eventually. So it was way over the top, and produced by someone who has his own software company, works with the competitors. I don't think he's dealing necessarily in autonomous driving stuff, but definitely some sketchy competition. It came off as there was also a CNBC interview with him, and I saw part of that as well. And in the interview, and apparently on his website, it comes off as more anything attached to the internet can be hacked because it's all connected. And a system like this shouldn't be connected to the internet. That's a whole different conversation of, is FSD going to kill millions? And so that's kind of where it just doesn't translate. And a lot of people have talked about this better than I have, because they know more about this stuff. But it was just a little like, is this just a big PR stunt for your company and to get a lot of attention? And like I said, like if it were wide release today, we'd just have jammed up intersections more than anything, with everything waiting for input. One side I will say on this though is on Twitter, Tesla Twitter is wonderful. Sometimes it jumps the shark a little bit, and someone created a fake account of this guy's name and was posting stuff, and it's funny, but if anybody does that with Elon or anybody else in the Tesla Twitter world, everybody's constantly like, report this guy, everybody report this guy, and and Yet when it's this person they don't like, it's like, oh, that's hilarious. We're just gonna, make this parody account, but not say parody anywhere in the heading of the account. And so I think that's kind of a little bit of bad part of the tribalism of the Tesla Twitter world, where obviously I don't like what this guy did wasn't cool, but two wrongs don't make a right, and I think a lot of people pointing out his potential conflicts of interest is plenty enough. But I don't know. That's just me. Yeah, that's. I don't know if I want to say too much more about that. Maybe I'm just a goody two shoes or something. People know that reference, right? Hello, fellow kids. Jim is saying 10.8.1 is a small step back for him. Phantom braking has come back. Got lots of snow and cold on the roads and haven't been fully clear for a while. Not the best test conditions. As I was driving around the neighborhoods, speaking of snow, I did have a couple of... I was in Chaska this morning, for those of you who know where Chaska is, and or this afternoon, and some of the road corners weren't plowed out all the way, and there were a couple where I can't... It cut the corner short and went a little bit over the bank, like as the bank, levels out into the street. Closer by far than I would have, but not so far as the body was at the snow level. But still kind of an odd choice, where it could have taken a little wider turn and chose not to. So that was interesting. And kind of surprising. I didn't expect it would be doing that at this point. But again, we'll see what 10.9 brings, and hopefully these winter experiences, they're adding into the training set and making those kind of things better. Tyler's here. Hey, everyone. Tim is here. Hello. And yeah, so that's kind of what I've been doing. Is, like I said, in the ridiculous thumbnail, which I hope made everyone smile, because boy, I sure look like a dork. We've kind of been doing this full self-drive exercise every day, and it's also kind of in prep for the road trip in February, where it's like, let's get used to just spending an hour or so in the car, and it's no big deal. I used to live an hour outside of the Twin Cities and worked in the Twin Cities, and so every day was driving 2 hours. Unfortunately, this was before EV times, but it got to the point where like an hour of driving felt like 15 minutes. It wasn't a big deal at all. And then you don't do that for a couple of years, and then you do it for, a day or two, and you're like, whoa, this takes forever. So kind of, I figured she'll get in the habit of being in the car. I'll get back in the swing of being in the car for a while, and we'll test FSD. So we're all working together, sweating to the oldies, and hopefully getting ready for that big trip in February. And yesterday, we kind of did a different take on that. I decided, it's kind of cold, but yesterday I actually got up to 40, I think. And I was like, it would be a good time to do that 8-hour range test that I've done a few different times. Once in the Model Y, but several times in the Model S. And the idea is I'm right near the highway, the Interstate 35 going north and south through the U.S. And so it's really easy. If I go south, I'm going away from the Twin Cities, and it's pretty clear sailing all the way to Des Moines. And, excuse me, my throat is just going for a dance. It's exercising, I guess. So I can do that, trip down there and trip back and be pretty much interstate speeds the whole time. I usually set it for 75. Speed limit 70. At 75, you're pretty much right level with traffic levels. So we were going to do that yesterday. The day kind of slipped away, and we wouldn't have left home until 3 p.m., really 3:30. And that would have got us home 8 hours later at 11:30 at night. And I thought, with my daughter in tow, that's not a great plan. It's not super parenting. So I thought, well, let's just use up a full battery and test that. And I didn't realize how windy it was yesterday. It was incredibly windy. I think I saw gusts up to 40 miles an hour on the local news stations. They had kind of a wind level map. And so we started heading down south. We're cruising, we're listening to the radio. I'm like, yeah, that's a heavy side wind we're fighting. But it wasn't too bad. And then we turned around, and our range, it was just eating up the miles super fast, or the percentages. And we made it back home with way less than I expected. I'm going to do a video on it on Sunday. But it was very... the big takeaway is it's so good that the supercharger network is so robust and every 100 to 150 miles apart. Because on a day like yesterday, with that wind pushing against us, you would need something like that to travel realistically. Or you would have to slow way down, which we ended up doing toward the end. And what was so interesting to me is it wasn't cold, but it was very windy. I'm going to, tomorrow, if I can get all things to align again, I don't think it's going to be nearly as windy, but it's going to be about 0 degrees. Maybe get into the low single digits Fahrenheit. And so I want to try to do that same run again, the same distance, but see what the difference is with no wind and colder. And that should kind of tell us what makes a bigger difference. Does temperature or does wind? Because, that's about it's going to be roughly about a 35 to 40 degree difference in temperatures. So should be interesting. That's why I don't want to say any conclusions here, because I don't know what they're going to be yet. But be sure to watch your range on very windy days and in cold weather, which I'm sure you all know by now. I'll see if I can beat this cold weather horse to death another time, which wasn't my plan this week, but it might be shaping up that way. We'll see. Kind of an interesting side note, as I'm not answering the question, is an interesting interaction happened on Facebook this week after I posted the video last week of, what happens with that blue section of battery where it's showing that it's there, but is it really there? Do you lose that? And so I put a video out, put it on some of the different Tesla owners groups that I'm a part of, And hi, Todd. So put that out there, and somebody said, can you just tell us the results? And at first I'm like, well, I mean, the results are in the video, but also I don't want to come off as some jerk who's just doing this, like, I want your fraction of a cent from your view. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give them like a basic answer, but not, go into details or anything. Kind of told them, here's what the results were, which, again, I can share that here with you if you haven't seen that video. Is basically if you can precondition, it's better for your battery. But if you are low on range and can't precondition, or if you're low on range and thinking preconditioning is going to help warm up the battery and then you'll get better, longer range overall, you won't. So if you're hurting for range or state of charge, don't precondition. I mean, don't get in and floor it either. Obviously, you probably wouldn't if you're in, hurting for range. But if you're hurting for range and you see the snowflake or a blue section of your battery, just get in, drive sensibly, and as the pack warms up, you'll get some of that back as you drive. If you precondition, you'll use that section up and then have whatever's left. And then and you'll end up using that same amount that you used to drive in the other test. At least that was my result. So you lose some and then you use the same amount. I hope this makes sense. If it didn't, go watch that video at like double speed or something, and you'll get it. I think the results are even marked in the chapter. But anyway, so this person asked me, can I just get the results? And then I think Brandon Flash from EV Nomads said, well, why do you not? They said something about I don't click on random YouTube videos, and which that's fine. Brandon's like, well, why don't you click on random YouTube videos? And the gist of their response was, if I'm not that interested, then I don't want to waste my time. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting, because if this is getting too in the weeds, YouTube, let me know. But basically, the expectation is someone's supposed to spend, 20 plus hours creating a video, doing this research, putting it together in a nice way with some nuance to it, and your time isn't valuable enough to watch that. That's fine. But then you're asking that same person to say, I'm going to take on an individual basis and give you my results, and let me just spoon feed it to you because your time is more valuable than mine. So afterward, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to answer stuff like this anymore. Just because, it's there if people want to see it. If they're not that interested, that's perfectly fine. But it isn't a good use of my time to rehash things twice. And yet I told that story, rehashing it again here for you. So take everything with a grain of salt. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of Brandon, and he got to take his ID4 out in the snow and play around with it a little bit. I think that's on the Out of Spec Motoring or Out of Spec Reviews channel. I can't remember which. And EV Dave took his Model Y out. I think he posted that last night. It was out this morning. His Model Y out in the snow and was running around. So the folks in North Carolina got to play with a little snow. So that's fun. Let's see. Oh, Tim, you are a genius. Give them a longer answer than if they watch the video. I should have I should have do the auto captions for the video and then I think you can get that as a file, and then just give them the complete transcript of the whole video. That would be hilarious. And waste a whole bunch of their time. Yeah, most people keep random crap like that to themselves, though. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I totally get it. People don't want their time wasted. But that's why I go through the process of editing the video. So, like on an 8-hour test, the video isn't 8 hours long. And even that video, I think, was under 10 minutes long. And, we spent 2 hours just driving. And then, anyway, you guys don't want to hear me talk about that because it doesn't matter. I'm happy to, I enjoy doing the YouTube videos, so I'm not complaining at all. It's just a weird perception people have of the value of time. Speaking of value, there's been a lot of something kind of came up this week, and with all of the gigafactories, there's been tons of drone flyovers and people tracking how many cars are coming out of Shanghai every 30 seconds or every 40 seconds or whatever. And people doing that in Berlin, the building process, and people doing that in Texas, that whole building process and stuff. And also at Starbase, I don't think there's drones going up around there. There's a pilot who does fly by every now and again. But that's kind of a little different situation. I know there are, with Starbase, there are cameras trained on it all the time, but they're also at a distance generally. But on the Tesla sites, it's always kind of bothered me a little bit that these workers are trying to work and you've got drones going out by the windows and things like that. And I get, it's very cool on one hand, that we get this sneak peek. But it is a sneak peek in a work area. And I just imagine being the construction crews there every now and again hearing a drone and going, oh, man, that's so annoying. At least it seems that way to me. And, it's a company and, investors, having good insight into the company without that necessarily coming from the company. There's a value to that too. But something came up where people were publishing, when Elon was going to Germany this week. And he responded to someone with, this is getting to be a security issue. And, kind of like I was saying, the Tesla Twitterverse is, has some pros and some cons. Some people can go over the board. I hope things don't get overboard with the drone stuff and tracking Elon's every move. That heavy restrictions have to be placed on things. And then everything clams up and we learn nothing. So it's just a little concern I have with, as Giga Texas gets ready to roll, it's cool that we're getting insight to things. But I would rather have less peeping in the windows and have more general information available for longer. But that's my take on it. Speaking of Giga Texas, there's been some talk of, maybe production starting soon. And then would that mean that the opening event would happen soon? People were saying that with Germany, that Elon's going this week. He wasn't. But if Elon was going this week, does that mean Giga Berlin is going to open this week? And he may have originally thought that, and that may have originally been a plan. That's how someone could have gotten that nugget. Now he's going in mid-February, And with how slow Germany's going to approve things, it may or may not be the opening of that plant. But they've kind of already had their big party. And now they've got some test vehicles testing in Norway, I saw, which is great. The vehicles they've produced, they are able to test and check out. Hopefully, get everything tightened up for when production actually does start there. And in Texas, there was talk of, we're going to do a big, Texas Gigafactory opening, Austin Gigafactory opening. And that's really cool. And I know there's the other thing we talked about last week, that the Austin Owners Club is going to be maybe hosting some big events around town, probably around that same time. They still haven't set a date, so I'm sure they're waiting to hear from Tesla when the date is, and then they'll set their events up around that. But I'm wondering if Tesla would actually postpone that into, I don't know how fast it gets hot down in Texas, like a April or May timeline, because part of the cool factor of Giga Texas was going to be this ecological paradise by the river. And I could see them putting all their effort construction-wise into, let's get this baby ready for production, start cranking out Model Ys. Once that flywheel starts, then would they start doing some other paving or trail creation or something closer to the river, so when they hold this event, you can kind of get a taste of what that's going to be, maybe with some drawings of like, here it is now, you can walk down by the river and see it. And then but come back in September and this will all be however they're going to have it. I think it would almost be cooler to wait a little while for that party if they could do something like that. Just to kind of show that it's not just a big white building and a field of dirt, but this is the start of something really cool for the community. I think that there could be some advantages there. So it'll be interesting. And also, selfishly, I'd like it pushed back so it's not on top of my vacation and means that I can't go. So might just be my own selfishness there. But interested to hear what anybody else thinks about that, because I think it would be cool to have a little more than, yep, that's a factory. Sure is big. Look at all that dirt. That's good Texas dirt there. Sorry, I just hit the microphone. Let's see. Okay. So if anybody has any thoughts on that, let me know. Also saw some things this week about the Cybertruck is officially delayed. Some people put that in their articles or YouTube headlines, and the official is not official yet. As far as I know, no one from Tesla has said it's delayed. It probably is. But it just kind of irks me a little bit when it's like, it's officially postponed. And then Elon comes on the call next week and says, no, it isn't. Here's the product roadmap I told you I would give you in December when I said I'd be on this call. That being said, it probably is delayed till next year, and that's fine. But he already did say, like, I'm trying to think of the exact word, but it was Cybertruck production will start at, toward the end of 2022, but production won't be at scale until 2023. So it's kind of one of those like, oh, we got a scoop that has already kind of been announced, but we're saying it's official, but it isn't quite official. So again, I think tuning in, I know a lot of people have never listened to earnings calls before. I never had before Tesla, because why would you? But you do get some insights, and some people ask good questions, and you get some good responses from Elon when he's on those. And when he's not, you get good business responses. So that stuff's good to know as well. I wanted to mention some other videos and things that are coming out or going on. Tom Malogny is in Arizona, probably flying back tonight, doing his 70-mile-an-hour range test of the Lucid Air. He had people guessing distances on Twitter, and he did point out that the weather was, I think he said 50s to 70s, I can't remember, 60s to 70s, where he was testing in Arizona. So that'll be interesting. Presumably it's going to be the longest range EV on the market, and so that's going to be a good FUD fighting statistic to have in your back pocket when people say, EVs can't drive very fast, or very far. At least you can say, well, the Lucid Air, it's super expensive, but it can go maybe 500, maybe 500 plus. I think it's rated for 500 plus. I don't know. My guess was 508, just because I have no clue, but we'll see. If anybody has a good guess, leave it in the chat, because I'd be interested to see what other people think of what that's going to be. So I think he said that's going to be on this weekend on Inside EVs. He'll have that video out, and I think a lot of people are going to be waiting for that one. And then Transport Evolved, I just watched last night, did a really good video on... they did one on this, the Dawn Project. It's that ad about FUD. They did a pretty fair video on that, I thought, with some interesting takes they had. But a really good video I thought they had was on plug and charge, and talked a little bit about Tesla's system and how other EVs are trying to do the same thing, and there's a standard and trying to make use of that standard. And then kind of the cars that are working up to it coming down the road. So if that's something you're interested in, or if you have friends who have CCS cars that you want to help them, kind of see if that's something that would be coming to their ecosystem, I thought that was a pretty good video they had there. I think it's just called something like Plug and Charge or something like that, or What's the Deal with Plug and Charge, maybe. But I thought that was good, and some of their better videos lately, so I enjoyed that. Sorry, hit the microphone again. Then another interesting situation that I'd love to know people's thoughts on, and that is there's another interesting thing that came up on Facebook last week, maybe the week before. But someone was kind of complaining that they live near I think it's a level 2 charger, and they have an EV, but Teslas are always using it. And there's a supercharger not too far away. Why don't Teslas just use superchargers? And I get it. And I think I even responded something fairly, sympathetic to it. And because, if there's a supercharger around, it's easy for Teslas to do that. But it kind of gets to something we've talked about before, about how to some people Teslas aren't real EVs, in that it's too easy for them, therefore they shouldn't be counted as EVs. And I think in my response to the person, I was saying, it could be a newer Tesla owner who doesn't know that there's a supercharger nearby, or doesn't understand that, this charger might be your only option nearby. And so it could just be out of new ownership. There are so many new Tesla owners, and that's kind of what put me on this train of thought I'm going to go into is EVs are exploding, as far as deliveries. People can't keep them in stock. Everyone that's on a lot gets sold. But the vast number of that, I think I was on a Minnesota EV owners call earlier today, and I think Yuko was saying over 60% of new EVs sold are Teslas in the U.S. Excuse me. So if the public charging infrastructure is there for the public, and most of the public is driving this certain type of EV, then even though they do have a handy fast charging option, those other public chargers are also open to them. And no matter what you drive, you shouldn't commandeer a level 2 charger as this is mine, and I'm going to camp my car out here every day. No matter what you're driving. But I also don't think necessarily the Tesla owner should be blamed or accused as, being, I don't know what the term would be, greedy or insensitive because they're using public charging. Up in northern Montana, we had to use level 2 because that's what was there. Now, most of the people who drive EVs in the U.S. drive Teslas now. That's just the way it is. So if a Bolt owner pulls up and there are Teslas there, it's not all Tesla owners are being jerks. It's other EVs are also using the system. Now, like I said, when there's a supercharger right down the road, probably the person should just do that. But especially if it's a free EV charger, why should one company get the free, if you need a slower charge, if you're going to be at a place for a while, why should only non-Teslas get to utilize that infrastructure? It's kind of a weird quandary where I definitely see their side of it, but it's not Tesla owners' fault that there is a supercharger network. And sometimes the place you need to charge and the convenient place to charge is, a level 2 somewhere near your work or your grandma's house or your, whatever. I think in my response to the person, I even said, a lot of times I'll go to the Hy-Vee down the road and just plug in and do some shopping, not because it's far away from me, or I'll do that at the parks in the summer too, because there's some EV chargers by some parks near me. But they can sit for what seems like days and not get used. And so that's bad for public perception too of, oh, here, the city put these in and nobody's using them. And so I think there's a benefit to, them seeing some use. So at the Hy-Vee, and it's also, the Hy-Vee is a great place to start conversations, because as you're plugging in, other people are walking in and out of the store. And so I've had several people stop as I was plugging in or unplugging and ask, just one or two questions on their way by. And it's a great way to start an EV dialogue with someone who is curious but not curious enough to seek anything out, or maybe has some misconceptions and will tell you their misconception, and you can say, oh yeah, sure, they can road trip. I've done this road trip, that road trip, and it's a blast. It's no problem at all. I just plug in here because it's something to do while I shop. So I think there's a benefit to using, as long as you're not hogging stalls and aren't causing a line, I think there's a benefit to plugging in at some of those places, even just for 20 minutes or a half hour, just to kind of spread the EV word. But yeah, you definitely don't want to be, like, I wouldn't do that in Oakdale. In Oakdale, Minnesota, there's a bank of superchargers on the side of the building, and then there's other EV chargers in the parking lot. To do it there would be really annoying and unnecessary. I guess you could still do it, but I guess that's kind of where my response is, like, if it's not handier to use a supercharger, then we should be able to use those too, and not feel like, I'm sure they're feeling like second-class citizens, but by saying they're the only ones who should get to use them, they're kind of saying the Tesla owners are. It's a weird dynamic, and I don't know quite how to solve it. Definitely more CCS fast charging in the state would help a great deal. So let's hope that happens, and yeah, we'll go from there. Let's see. Also saw just this afternoon that there's a new update to a better route planner, which is the route planner that I use most of the time when I'm not just using Tesla's in-car nav. I did that whole drive with, or that whole planning session a few videos ago about how I plan this road trip we're going to do in February. But sounds like the new additions are, overall improvements, and then they added a handful of vehicles. And so it's good to see that they're constantly improving and adding vehicles on there as well. So that's pretty cool. Like I said earlier today, I was on the Minnesota EV Owners Group meeting, and it sounds like they're going to have a presence at the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show in March. I think he said it was the 2nd to the 6th. They were looking for volunteers there. That information's all going to be on the Minnesota EV Owners Facebook group. So if people want to sign up and talk EVs, I think there is going to be a mask mandate in place, and maybe a proof of vaccination or something as well. He talked a little bit about that, but I was trying to do family dinner at the same time as listening on that, so I didn't get all the details. But for those Minnesota folks who want to participate in that, that's going to be early March, and I think he said they're going to try to have a Model Y and maybe an ID4, or maybe it was a Mach-E. I can't quite remember, but So definitely, if you own one of those, or you know people who are interested in either of those, I'll get more information when we get closer. But might be worth going to check out if we're doing in-person things at that point. Who knows? Also, there were a lot of people who they did kind of an introduction thing with. I think there were more than 50 people on the call. And lots of bolt owners were saying that they already had their packs replaced, which I thought was really good news. A handful said not yet, still waiting, but that's encouraging. I think I started doing this live stream in February of last year, and kind of all this was just kind of the bolt stuff was grinding to a halt, and fire after fire was being reported. They didn't have a plan with the software, and it was kind of a mess. So to be a year later and have most of the people on that call already have their replacement, I'd say that's pretty good. So hopefully all good things continue for those bolt owners. I'm looking through my notes here, and I think I burned through everything already. So let me know if you guys want to talk about anything else, or if anything else is going on. Like I said, this week is going to be kind of an interesting one with these range tests. The difference between wind and cold, I guess, is going to be the topic. Wasn't my plan, but it should be interesting to dig through that. I think someone said, Todd said the wind is a big deal, and it definitely is. So we'll just kind of see how that all plays out. If I have as bad a range as I had with the wind, then I need to look at other things I'm doing, because it's definitely nowhere near rated range, which I know in the dead of winter and with wind you're not going to get that. But I was really surprised at how fast it's gone down. I do have all-season tires on it, but they say sport, so I don't think they're great in the winter. Well, I know they're not great on snow and ice. But I don't think they're very good for my range. I did some range tests in the summer, too, that weren't stellar. And so I guess if I keep seeing results like that aren't meeting kind of where I expect them to be, I'll probably make a service center inquiry, a service ticket, and just say, hey, can you guys check this out? I hesitate to do that when it's this cold, because I think the answer is going to be, duh, it's 0 degrees out. And, it was super windy. But I'm just interested. If anybody's in here and has a good handle on what their range has been in the last couple weeks with the cold, I'd be interested to know that. If it's about what you expected, or if you're losing more, or what. But again, even with the cold, the wind, like I said earlier, having a supercharger every 100, 150 miles makes it so that even if you lose, a whole ton of range, you can still get where you need to go. Like I said, I was headed down, originally planning to do the 8-hour test, which would have taken me down to Dow's, and then into Sioux City, Des Moines. And just getting down to Dow's, I would have had to stop at Albert Lee and charge already to make it that next leap to Dow's. And then at Dow's, I would have needed a bunch to get down to Des Moines. So definitely going to be doing more exploring into my range in as well. I suppose as we do the road trip will be the next a good test of that, because we'll be going into milder weather and interstate speeds and things and supercharging. So the pack should stay warm, and yeah, we'll just see how it goes. But if no one else has anything else in the chat, Todd is saying he had good results with 245. Oh, those are your tires. Okay. 4SR 19 Quadratic Pro XLs. Okay. Yeah, it might just be, like I said, I had range issues in the summer on these tires too, and it might just be the crappy tires I got in North Dakota in a pinch. So if you want to hear the story about that, go back and watch the Model Y Mountain Adventure road trip series, and you can see all my tire sagas in that. But I think we've got a short one today, guys, where I've run through all my topics. I made good enough notes that I was able to be relatively concise. So, and I think I've even fixed my end screen, so that's an exciting thing too. But thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it. Sorry I've got a little frog tonight. As if I don't sound like Kermit the Frog enough already in normal days. But I really appreciate everybody joining, and hope you have a great week. Stay warm and stay charged up, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks a lot. Thanks again to Roland for the stickers. If anyone wants one, let me know either on the Facebook group or at Brian_Reby on Twitter, and I can get you one of those. Or a couple. I've got a handful of them here, so let me know. Thanks a lot. Let's see if this works this week. Have a great night. Thanks, guys.